Really what customer centricity is all about, is the quality of the experience of working with Septodont. And today I'm going to talk about a few things that I think are at the heart of doing it. Here is the umbrella that I'd like to put over what I'm going to talk about today. It's in everything that we do, every interaction that we have, that we do it with an experience mentality versus a task mentality. An experience mentality versus a task mentality. And just by saying those words, you know what I'm talking about, right? You can go into any business and you can tell when the people working there are focused on doing the task. Now here's the problem. When we do what we do with a task approach, our customers feel processed. And it's really difficult to feel that loyalty factor, you know, when you feel like you've just been kind of processed through a system. Versus you go into a business, and they're still getting the task done. I mean, you still have to get the task done. But you can tell just by the way things are playing out that they care about the quality of your experience. Now as the customer, we feel valued. And I think wherever our customers fall on that continuum between feeling processed or feeling valued, that's going to be their loyalty factor. And the reason I think we have to talk about this and reinforce it all the time is because of how easy it is to fall into a task mentality. Yeah, especially when we're under pressure. You know, those challenging times, those busy times, it becomes very easy to just start processing somebody through our system. And I think there are a handful of things that we can do to create the experience that drives the loyalty. And within Septodont, you have, is it roughly 1,200 employees?
Yeah. Across
Septodont, 1,200 employees? Let me ask you this. How many employees does it take to screw it up? Don't point at anybody. It only takes 10. And it was the same thing when I worked at Disney. I don't know what the number is today, but when I left Disney World, we had 60,000 people that worked there. Just at the Florida one, it had 60,000 people that worked there. And it has to be everybody. Now, as I talk about these customer centricity principles, please know that I know that there are differences between what you do and what Disney World does. I know that. Right? I know that you don't work in a theme park. Sometimes it might feel like the Tower of Terror, but there's differences. But here's the biggest pushback I get, and I know there's some of you thinking of this. Here's the biggest pushback I get. Is people will say, well, here's the difference for you. Here's the difference for you. It's fun to work at Disney World. Right? It's fun to work at Disney World. No, it is not. I worked there for 20 years. I can tell you right now, after the first day, you can forget about all of that Mickey Mouse stuff. All of that pixie dust. Who here's been to Disney World? You know, the one here. Who's been here in the summertime? Who's coming in the summertime? Okay. Let's go to Florida in August. You remember how hot it was? I want you to imagine being one of those Disney characters walking around. And I hate to burst bubbles, but if you don't know this, there are people, okay, inside. I apologize for telling you that, but there are. And I've done it, Simon's done it, and it's beyond anything you can imagine how hot it is. But you still have to make it a great experience. But again, you don't care if I'm hot. You had to save for 25 years for this vacation. You don't care if I'm hot. You haven't lived until you're the cast member. You know, they call their employees here cast members. You haven't lived until you're the cast member who they stick in front of Space Mountain telling guests that it's closed for maintenance for a month. People would just melt down. There was one time it was my turn, had to be out in front of Space Mountain telling people it was closed. And this one guest who I will never forget, he came up and he had his 2 small children with him. And I had to tell him that Space Mountain was closed. And just froze. And just stared at me. And I said, yeah, I apologize, it's closed. And he looks at his 2 kids and he goes, thank the man for ruining our vacation. So peel the curtain back, all right? It is different than what you do, but I think that you'll see that these principles, they really do apply in the Septodont world when you think about your relationships with your customers. This is the framework that I'd like to use for our discussion. If you go to page 1 in the handout, we're gonna go back to this several times during the session. But it's pretty straightforward. You know, I think what happens is we have a tendency to overcomplicate things. You know, it's pretty straightforward. It's putting the customer at the center of everything that we do. Now, again, the customer is certainly the patient. but it's also the dealer, the distributor, and the practitioner. It's whoever we're serving at that moment, right? That's our customer. The service environment, that's the physical part of it. That's the products themselves, your sales and marketing materials, the packaging, it's the physical part of what we do. The service delivery, the interactions that customers have with you. Service delivery, and surrounding it all are the processes, the things that just embed it into the culture. So we're gonna keep coming back to this. I saw a couple people handing around. Do we have any missing handouts? Do you have a handout over here? Do you have a couple bucks?
Yeah.
Anybody else need a handout? Raise your hand if you need a handout. Thanks, I appreciate it. Great. Because you'll want to remember every word. Perfect. Okay, thank you, Simon. So the first principle, so looking at the customer at the center, here's the principle that goes with that. Is we need to look, this is the thing to branch off of that. We need to look at everything that we do, every interaction that we have through the lens of the customer. Again, certainly the patient, and the practitioner and the distributor and the dealer, but whoever it is we're dealing with, we need to see it through their lens. Because this is why it's a competitive differentiator. Because most organizations don't. They will say that they do, but they don't. And I can prove it to you. Just by a show of hands, how many of you in the last few years, you have purchased furniture that you had to have delivered to your house? Raise your hands about furniture had to be delivered. Okay, so let me ask you this question. What were the guidelines that the furniture store gave you for the delivery of the furniture? What were the guidelines? Be there between 8 and 1 or 12 and 4. I had one guy say June. They told me to be there in June. But usually it's a window during the day that they give you. So here's my question for you. And if you would all please answer this question. Whose convenience are they really concerned with? Theirs, right? And so to me, the better question is, whose lens are they looking through? Theirs. Yet, you go on their website, you look at their marketing materials, they'll say, we are a customer-focused organization. You experience what they put you through. And I'll tell you right now, it all comes down to what we put our customers through. And they're not. That's the question I think we should be asking all the time. At this moment, as this interaction is happening, or we're making this decision, whose lens are we seeing these moments through? Now,